Hi, welcome back. This is nearly the final stretch of the Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon event. And the next speaker up is Erica, who's a Microsoft MVP, and is going to run us through Office 365 and how to use it for internal investigations. So over to you, Erica.
Thank you so much, Carl. So hi, I'm Erica Toelle from Seattle. And today's presentation is on using eDiscovery for both internal investigations and for legal or litigation purposes. So if you haven't joined a live event yet, but you probably have, there is a question and answer section. So please put your questions in there. I'm going to be pausing throughout the presentation to go ahead and address your questions. So with that, let's get started. Let me say a huge thank you to Affirma, who's a technology consulting services provider. They can provide services around SharePoint, Azure, as well as marketing. There we go. So as if you've probably heard by now, the SharePoint conference is now the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference. So that will be coming up in March of 2021 in Las Vegas per usual. So go ahead and check that out. I think registration is already open. And then thanks for all of our generous sponsors for sponsoring our marathon conference. Without this sponsors, this would never have been able to happen. And then again, thank you very much to Affirma for sponsoring this session. Just really quickly, hey, I'm Erica, and I blog at howtouseoffice365.com, mostly about compliance, SharePoint, and Teams. So if you're interested in learning more after this session, please go check it out. I'm also always happy to answer your questions. You can find me very easily on the internet, and I pretty much respond to everybody. So in today's presentation, we're going to cover a couple topics. So first, we're going to cover the overall discover and respond solutions, of which eDiscovery is a part. Then we're going to go into the individual solutions, starting with core eDiscovery. That's available to anybody with an enterprise license or an E3 license. Then moving on to advanced eDiscovery, which is included with an E5 license, if you're lucky enough to have one of those. Then moving on to data subject requests, which are another type of internal investigation that we do in order to comply with GDPR regulations. Next, internal investigations. So if there's been a data leak or a similar data spillage event, how do you investigate the size of that event, contain it, and delete any content that shouldn't have been spilled? And then finally, we'll have a resources section so that you can learn more after the presentation. So this presentation is being recorded. It will be up on the conference YouTube channel in a few days. And then I've also made my slides available. So you should have everything you need coming out of the presentation. So first, we're starting with discover and respond. So when we talk about discover and respond, it's a group of solutions that are available in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. So first, we have our core eDiscovery. So this allows you to place content and custodians on hold, search for content that you want to have included in the matter, and then export the content to either another system or to pass off to legal counsel. Next, we have advanced eDiscovery. So this builds on the capabilities available in core eDiscovery and then adds a lot of additional functionality to make the review process and the content collection process easier. So it really manages that end-to-end eDiscovery workflow, and we'll go over this in more detail in just a second. Next, we have data subject requests. So as a part of GDPR and the California Consumer Privacy Act, People have the right to request to know what personal data you have on them. So you have to be able to investigate and find that data and then give them a manifest or a fancy Excel sheet of what data you have on them. And then GDPR also gives them the right to request that data be deleted within reason. So that is by definition also an internal investigation, and so that's why it's covered in this solution area as well. And then we have our data investigations. So again, this is very useful when you want to do an internal investigation, because maybe you had a very confidential document, maybe the plan for a new product that hasn't been released or announced yet, and then somehow that was accidentally shared with a SharePoint site that has external users. We need to be able to see, did any of those external users actually open the document? If they did they realize what they had, and did they email it to somebody? So we need to be able to investigate the breadth and depth of that event. And we use the eDiscovery tools to be able to do that. And then finally, the last solution in this area is content search. So this solution allows you to search almost any content available in Office 365, including emails, documents, Teams, and more. And it's actually the foundational search piece that's leveraged by all these other solutions listed on the slide. So the next point I want to make is all of those solutions we just talked about for Discover and Respond, they're all basically eDiscovery, even on the back end. So, their eDiscovery comes in two flavors. The core version, which is the E3 version that almost everybody has in their Office 365 licensing. And then advanced eDiscovery comes with some of those advanced licenses and has a lot more powerful features. So data subject requests leverage the core eDiscovery functionality, whereas data's investigations uses the advanced eDiscovery. And then content search is foundational, and it's the same search is leveraged by both solutions. Because licensing is always important when it comes to compliance, and you need to understand what solutions you can access based on your licensing. This is my slide about that. So Microsoft did refresh their compliance licensing on April 1st of 2020. The link on the below the boxes has a very detailed license chart that goes feature by feature and lists what licenses include that feature. I highly recommend that you check it out. But just to kind of oversimplify things for the purpose of this presentation, I kind of think of compliance licensing as having either core or advanced. So core functionality comes with the Office 365 E3 or the Microsoft 365 E3 license, and then its equivalents for the government cloud, which is G3, or the education cloud, which is A3. Whereas the advanced licenses are additional costs above and beyond E3. So there's lots of licenses you could buy, either as a subset of a functionality or licenses that include everything in compliance and beyond. So those are the E3, government G5, education A5, as well as some add-on packs. So up until April 1st, you could buy the advanced compliance add-on. That is no longer available. Now you need to either buy the Office 365 E5, Microsoft 365 E5, or they have Discover and Audit, one you could buy as well. Now, I don't have a PhD in Microsoft licensing, so I'm probably not explaining that well, but just think of it as core or advanced, and then have your licensing guy worry about the details. So if we kind of match up the core and advanced concept, if you own core, you can use core eDiscovery, you could use data subject requests, and you can use content search. Advanced, actually you should have all of those checked. So advanced, you can still use core. You of course have advanced eDiscovery. You can still use data subject requests, data investigations, and content search. You have access to everything. So another thing when we're talking about investigating content, we have to understand where content's actually stored. This is because, for example, if you want to search for Teams chats, you need to know that you actually need to search the user mailboxes when you're setting the location for your search. For Teams conversations, those are actually located and stored for compliance purposes in the Exchange group mailbox. Your Teams files that have been shared in a chat, either with one other person or another group of people, those are stored in a copy in each user's OneDrive. Of course, Teams files from a Teams channel are stored in SharePoint. And then we can kind of go through and see all of the different locations here. One big change that's been made recently is that Yammer is now available for eDiscovery. So you have to have Yammer in what's called native mode. Now, I'm sure what is Yammer native mode could be a whole presentation on itself, but just know if it's in native mode that the Yammer files are stored in SharePoint, and then Yammer messages are stored in Exchange for eDiscovery purposes. So there are things that cannot be searched at all using these solutions. You can see the list here, but some ones that really stand out include like Microsoft Planner, Microsoft Stream recordings. So like if you record a Teams meeting like we are now, that's actually saved as a stream recording with a transcript. And unfortunately, that's not available for search in eDiscovery at this time. So when we're talking about these type of electronic investigations, whether you're talking about eDiscovery or a data leak or a data subject request, they all kind of follow a similar process in terms of how the business thinks about going about the investigation. So first of all, of course, is you're going to have great information governance so that you're keeping information that you need and preventing it from being deleted. And then when it's reached the end of its useful period of life, you're making sure it does get deleted. So it's not sitting around being a liability that could potentially cause risk and harm if there's information in there that you kind of don't want people to see in a lawsuit. So assuming that's in place, when we actually get into the discovery process, the first thing we're going to do is more deeply index the content, right? Because things are, indexed pretty well in Office 365 search, but not every single property is indexed. So we're going to process it and make that search index more robust for the subset of information that we're interested in. Then, depending on your requirements, you might need to ensure that the content is preserved. So this is often known as a legal hold. When you put a person or a piece of content on a legal hold, that means that the content cannot be deleted and that it cannot be modified. Now, the end user, from their perspective, might think that they deleted it, or they might be able to continue collaborating on it. But on the kind of back end of Office 365, it is keeping a copy of that data for litigation reasons because of the legal hold. Collection is actually searching for the data. So you might be only interested in data that's associated with a person, like if you're investigating an individual's actions, or you might need to search a broader collection of data. Like if you want to investigate a project, then you're going to investigate the Microsoft team related to that project, the SharePoint site, etc. So you're going to collect the data that you're interested in. Now, if we are using advanced eDiscovery, we can do even more advanced processing on this content. We can do things like do object character recognition, or OCR, on images. This pulls out the text from the image so that now that's searchable just like any other text. We're also going to go through a review process to decide whether or not that piece of content is relevant to our case. And then we can do further analysis. With advanced eDiscovery, there are artificial intelligence or AI capabilities available. to do things like group the content together in themes so that like content is together in one context. We can also reconstruct emails into one thread, so you can review it as one item with that context of the thread instead of reviewing each individual email. We can also identify duplicate documents. So again, when you're manually reviewing it, you're not reviewing the same document 3 times. You only have to review it once, and then it marks all of the versions as reviewed. And then finally, kind of outside of the Office 365 world, especially if you're dealing with litigation or legal cases, you'll want to produce that data or export it and give the copy to either your external counsel, so the lawyers you've hired to help you, or sometimes you need to produce that to the court or other places. And then there's software that helps with that production process and then the presentation in court or to opposing counsel. But the whole point of these tools is we're starting with a large volume of data, and then we're trying to whittle it down so that we're only giving out the most relevant results. So if we start looking at the functionality that kind of maps to each of these stages, I'm not going to go through each one of them, but these are all the capabilities that are available in Office 365 in especially the advanced eDiscovery and in the data investigation features. But I wanted to make sure we had this slide in here for you for future reference. So if we start mapping the capabilities to each solution, here's how it kind of pans out. So all of the solutions can, manage content as cases, meaning that you create a little workspace, people can collaborate on it, and see the work that others have done. All of them can perform searches against all the content in Office 365. All of them can export content. And then all of them have a role that you can optionally add to people that are able to read encrypted documents. And that's encrypted by Microsoft technology, such as IRM. If you don't want every reviewer to have decrypt access, you can take it away from some people, and they can still see unencrypted documents, no problem. Then for core advanced investigation, that's where we have the hold capabilities so that we are able to preserve content. And then the rest from advanced processing on down the slide are the more advanced features that I'll show you in the demo. And those are really used by advanced eDiscovery and investigation. So it's really important that you think about permissions, because you're giving somebody potentially God access to read every single encrypted, highly confidential data or confidential document in your organization. So these are your options for setting up permissions across all of these solutions. I will say that I spent a very enjoyable weekend last weekend actually testing if these worked as described. There's a lot of bugs right now. So if you are gung-ho about using these solutions right away, please reach out to me one-on-one because it's probably going to take them a couple months, honestly, to fix the issues. And then if you actually want to, there are pre-built role groups inside the Security and Compliance Center. Like, for example, you could grant someone access as an eDiscovery manager, and that automatically comes with all of the roles kind of listed here. So with that, I'm going to just go into core eDiscovery. So I have one slide, and then I'm going to switch over to my demo, and I'm going to check for questions when I switch over to the demo. So just as a reminder, for core eDiscovery, we're focused on putting content on hold. We're creating a case to manage this matter. We're searching for content, and then we're exporting it. So just really quick, I'm going to pop into the team here and just see if there's any questions. Nope, no new questions, no problem. As you can see, I take your questions seriously, so please do ask some of them. All right, so if you've never seen it before, this is the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. It's where you're going to configure and administer and maintain all of your compliance solutions. Just like any other admin portal in Office 365, you can grant a subset of users access to this portal. And then additionally, we use role-based permissions, so you can grant them access to individual solutions here. Now, the one we're interested in right for this section is under eDiscovery. I am logged in with an E5 license, obviously, and I'm going to go ahead and here and click on Core eDiscovery. I'm also going to collapse this so I have more screen real estate. So here I can see all of my Core eDiscovery cases, whether or not they're active or closed, when I created them, the last time I modified them, and then who did the modification. Now, if I wanted to create a new case, I can do that. I'm going to call this the marathon case. And then I'd be able to go along and manage the membership of the case. So I can either manage or add individual people or individual role groups. And then if I wanted to, I could do things like change the name, the description, and I could close the case or delete it. Now, a lot of times these take a while to process in advanced or in eDiscovery solutions. So I'm going to go ahead and open a case I already had prepared just to move things along here. So it's going to open a new window for the case, and it's going to have some basic information. And then we can go to our hold section. So holds are, again, how you prevent content from being modified or deleted when you need to preserve things so that people can't know that they're going to get in trouble and go and delete the evidence. So I'm just going to go ahead and I need to just put one person on hold. So I'm just going to, oops, I hit caps. I'm just going to name it after them. Now I can choose to put certain locations on hold. So for example, if I wanted to actually put Adele on hold, I would start by typing their name. You type at least 3 characters, and then you can select that person. Now this is going to put their mailbox on hold, and inside their mailbox, of course, is their team's one-on-one chats, any to-do tasks, their meetings. There's a lot of stuff in that mailbox. If I wanted to put a team on hold in Core eDiscovery, I'd need to search for the Office 365 group for that team here, and then additionally put the SharePoint site on hold here. So if you add a site, you actually need to know the URL of that site and paste it in here in order to add it. So when I'm happy, I'll go ahead and click next. And then here's where I write my query in order to find the content that I want to put on hold. So the locations I kind of think of as if you, have a bunch of, this is a weird analogy, but it's the best thing I can think of. Let's say that you have a bunch of cows. You build a fence to keep your cows in the barnyard, right? So their search locations is that fence. It's setting the boundary for what you're doing. The query is how you identify the individual cows that you would like to find. So you can either query things by using keywords or what we call keyword query language, or KQL, to say, use and or not type statements. Or you can use conditions to kind of further refine your search. So like a popular one is participants in emails. So that's going to search both the sender, the receivers, CC'd, BCC'd, etc. So in that case, because I care about Adele, I'm just going to go ahead then and include, not just the stuff in her mailbox necessarily, but everything. So then I review the settings and create the hold. And then now everything covered by this search is going to be not deleted. Takes this a while to run. That's our hold. Now, separate from the hold or putting the freeze on content, I actually need to look for content that's included in the eDiscovery matter. So for that, I can do a new search, a guided search, or search by ID list. Guided search is kind of the easiest. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Project Falcon. That's my project name. I can either search all locations or refine the search to only search what's on hold or set specific locations. And then I can search based, again, on keywords or conditions. Oh, there we go. So again, these searches do take a while to run. And in order to kind of mitigate that, you can save the searches if you need to revisit them again and again and again. And then it's going to pull up a preview first while it's running the entire search, because it's having to look for everything in Office 365, so it takes a second. And then you can see the results. So when you get a result and you click on it, it'll actually preview the document over on the right. See if we can get one of them. There we go. So you can see actually the email in full fidelity, and that kind of helps you decide, if you want to export this. If there's content in this search you don't want, then you need to refine the search query. In advanced eDiscovery, you can kind of say yes or no to each individual content, but in core eDiscovery, you can only control it based on the search itself. So then when I'm happy with what's shown in this search, I can export either a report or the results themselves. I have different options here. So sometimes there's errors in the search. This is often caused by things like password protected files, unrecognized file types, or say encrypted documents that are haven't used non-Microsoft technology to encrypt the document. And so, we want to be concerned sometimes about those errors. So you can just look at those to remediate them. And then also I can decide how I want to export Exchange content. And it kind of gives me an estimation of the results. And I would click export. That's going to take a while to run. When that's done, then I can download the information. Actually, let me just, and oh, this is old. So it only lasts for about 2 weeks and then you need to rerun it. So then you would be able to actually download the results. So that's how we use core eDiscovery to manage these requests. Now we're going to look at advanced eDiscovery. So for advanced eDiscovery, we can do some of the same things, right? We can put custodians on hold. We can search for content. We can export it, but then we can do a whole lot more. So rather than talk about it, let's do a demo. Are there any questions that I should answer? No, it doesn't look like it. No, quiet bunch today.
Yeah, sorry, I was unmuting twice, but no.
No problem. All right. So then advanced eDiscovery was just here. So again, we have our list of cases. You can see I use this a lot more. Same thing, you can create a case, enter a name, case number, etc. And then it's going to ask if we want to set up our settings for the case. I always recommend hitting yes. So that's the first place I'm going to go to show you why. Again, because this takes a while, I have one that's pre-built. When I click into the case, it's going to give me kind of an overview of what's going on. If I was just creating it from new, it's going to send us to this settings area. Here you can change the case information and close or delete the case. We could manage the access and permissions to either grant individuals or role groups access to this individual case. But what you're really interested in is here. This is the advanced eDiscovery magic. So here are the settings for kind of the advanced analytics that you can do on an advanced eDiscovery case. So the coolest one, I think, is the ability to detect duplicates and email threads. If you're getting false positives, just increase this threshold. Themes are help you to look for things that you didn't need to know you needed to look for. So for example, if I was investigating an injury, a litigation related to an injury, I might know that, his name is John Doe, he worked at this plant, but then what I can do is turn on themes to identify other patterns in the data. So common things I see in themes are things like project names, office locations, where, if you see a project name pop up in a theme, you say to yourself, I didn't know that might be related to this. I need to go investigate that more. So it kind of gives you these little clues to what might be related to your case. This query for review, that is a view that basically shows you all the content in a threaded, deduplicated view. So that one you definitely want to check. If you have text, such as a disclaimer at the bottom of your email or a privacy statement, you'd want to add that as ignore text so that the AI and advanced eDiscovery don't think those emails are all related because they all have this huge block of text in it. And then OCR is that optical character recognition. That's extracting text from images. These processes can take a long time. Like when you search for something, it can take a day or two to complete the search, or a day or two to process and add that additional search index information before you add it to the case. So you have to kind of make the call between low and high accuracy versus how long you want things to take. So anyway, go ahead and set those settings, because if they're not correct from the beginning, you just have to go back and reprocess it, and then it can take days again. Oops, sorry, clicked the wrong button. So the custodian hold process is pretty similar, except for a few things I'm going to point out really quick, because how popular Microsoft Teams is right now. You know what, I have to use someone else because Adele is already in this case, so she's not going to come up. So they just announced on the roadmap the ability to copy and paste a list of emails from an Excel spreadsheet into this box, and you can see exactly why we're excited about that. Imagine adding 100 custodians like this. So first thing is it found that the exchange in OneDrive automatically. I didn't have to go search for them again. And then if I add additional locations, let's say Teams, what it's doing is it's actually looking and seeing all the teams where Nestor's either a member or an owner, and it's only showing me those teams where he's a member or an owner. So that's pretty convenient. So then you'd place the hold, no fancy search query. It's already written basically those queries for you, and I would complete the hold. Let's see how long this takes and if I regret it. All right, so this is a fun bug that we discovered yesterday. It's not supposed to do that, and we're very much working on this right now. I should mention my day job is as a consultant to Microsoft, to the compliance team. So when I say we, that's what I mean. Okay, So then now we have these custodians on hold, and sometimes there's laws in certain countries that require you to tell custodians when they're on a hold. So in that case, advanced eDiscovery can manage those notices. You can fully customize the text, escalations, reminders. We don't have time to demo all of it, but just know that it's there. It also tracks whether or not the custodian has acknowledged the notice. If you want to put additional locations on hold that are unrelated to the custodian, you can do that here. It's very similar to the search process we saw in core eDiscovery. If there's any errors, those password protected files, those large images, then those will show up here, and you can go through a remediation process to make those viewable and able to be read by search. Okay, so now everything is on hold. Now we need to, again, find the content that's related to our case. So there's a couple things here. I'm not going to have it be related to a custodian. I just want to find additional locations. So again, I'm deciding where my fence is. I want my fence around everything in Office 365. And then we can do our search criteria. So if you are not talented at writing KQL, like I am not, you can do a keyword list in advanced eDiscovery. If you want to have more than one word in your keyword, you need to put a parentheses around it. So like Adele Vance, maybe this is a data subject request, so you're trying to find all their personal information. You might put that in here. You can put up to 20 keywords. And basically it's saying there's an or operator between each line. So we're saying find Adele Vance or Main Street, or this was going to be a phone number, but then it got kind of long. You can also tell it, if your search is written in a different language, you could tell it that so it can find things more easily. And then you can further refine things through those search conditions as well. And then it would give you a summary of the search. I'm not going to run it because, again, it takes a long time. But when it's done running, you can see things like the estimate of the results, different statistics about the locations. You could also preview the results. But what we want to do is, let's say we're happy with the search. We're going to add the search results to a review set. So the review set is, specific to advanced eDiscovery. And what it allows us to do is actually go through and review the data. So if you remember from our analytics settings, here's the for review. So look at right now we have, 25,059 items here. Let me click on for review. Look, by removing the duplicates and threading it, we brought the items that need to be manually reviewed down to only 66,650. So that's the power and the value of kind of that advanced eDiscovery set, just one of the ones. So again, if I want to review an item, let's pick something more exciting here. Maybe this will work. There we go. It's an image. If this was OCR'd and there was text, I could click on the text view to see what exactly had been extracted. I can see all the metadata on the file. And then I can also annotate the document. So if you want to say do redaction over some text, you can do that. And then when it's exported, it'll respect that. Now you could go through and tag things as maybe either relevant or irrelevant. These tags are completely customizable, as you can see here through manage tags. And then I can also do things like see the family of documents. I can see the conversation. So let me just kind of move around my screen here. I can see that these are all the related emails. I can see all the near duplicates just to make sure that makes sense to me. And then I can see any exact duplicates of the item. So then within this review set, we could also further filter or search within the review set to, get smaller and smaller subsets of data. We're also able to do things like import non-Office 365 data for analysis. There's a super fancy Relevance Engine. So as you go through and you're tagging things, deciding whether it's relevant or not, this is a machine learning module that'll kind of look at how you're tagging things and start to predict if you're going to think it's relevant or not. So that's a really fast overview of the review set. The last thing we can do is export the content. So if we're going to do that, it prepares the export. It gives you this location. Actually, I meant to show you that, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and do an export. It's going to allow me to do all the settings I want. Now, this metadata, low file and tags, if you want to import it into another eDiscovery system, it'll allow you to bring over all your tagging work and metadata. But what you can do is export it to a Microsoft provided Azure Blob storage container, or you could use your own. The Microsoft provided one lasts 2 weeks, so you have 2 weeks to download the data. This, of course, takes a while to prepare, so I already prepared an export. That's here. So in order to download the data, I take this URL. I go into an application called Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer, and I just paste in the URL. And then you'll be able to see our storage container here. So here's the data I just exported. I only did a summary for this one, but if there was files, like I think some of these have files in them, you would see all the files too. Here we go, native files. So it's all the messages and documents and everything else. So typically you would take this and then import it into another eDiscovery system that's collecting data from all of your systems. So that, oops, I just accidentally opened my time tracking. That is our advanced eDiscovery solution. So the reason I spent so long demoing these is because the next solutions are just using that functionality, right? It's the same UI, it's the same options. They've just kind of tweaked it a bit to be a little more relevant to these areas. Now for data subject requests, if you own advanced eDiscovery, just use that. It is so much more powerful. It's going to give you exactly what you need. You handle it just as I showed you. But if you have E3 only, then it probably would be more helpful to use the data subject request tool. So as you can see, it's a solution listed here on the left. I create a case. Let's pick on Megan this time. So this is only for employee requests. If you want to do a customer request, then you're going to need to just treat it as a core eDiscovery or advanced eDiscovery case. Typically, your legal department's going to give you guidance on the certain search queries you need to run to basically cover your butt that you searched for everything correctly. But if you want to find an employee, it's much easier. Everything's tied to an account. Oops, I'm sorry, I meant to click this. Everything's tied to their account, so it's easier to find things. What the data subject request tool does is, oh, I'm sorry, I opened the wrong one. I meant to use new. What the data subject request does is it basically writes the query, search query for you. So as you can see here, it's when I put in that person's name, it basically said, you know, the participant, here's their email address, or they're the author of a document, or, you know, they created some other piece of content. So instead of you having to write this search query manually, it's just done that work for you. So I would do this search, I would export everything, call it good. So data subject request isn't the most you know, amazing wow factor type feature, but it gets the job done. So then the last thing I want to cover is the internal data investigations. So again, this is typically used for security investigations, things like data-related incidences, whether that's a data breach, meaning somebody actually got into your environment and looked at things and you want to find out what they saw. Data spillage, which is, you know, someone accidentally sharing a confidential document with the wrong people. But basically, we need to find out, you know, where did this data spill to? What sites is it in? Is it supposed to be there? And we want to purge those messages immediately so that no one else stumbles across the information. Well, if you've purged all of the documents and messages related to the spillage event, how are you going to investigate it and figure out what happened? Well, by using the data investigation tool, what we actually do is search for the content to find, you know, the boundaries of the breach. We take a copy of that content and keep it in our case, and then quickly delete it everywhere else. So that way we have a copy of the information for our ongoing investigation, but it's not live in production. So we're, you know, leveraging all of the advanced eDiscovery features here. And if we go to our demo, we can see there's a data investigation solution. So we're going to say that, you know, we had pre-disclosure financial documents. So it's related to, you know, our earnings for the company, for our investors, but it hasn't been officially announced yet. It somehow got leaked. So the first thing you're going to do, of course, is search for information to figure out what was leaked and where. It's just the same as any other search. Instead of called custodians, they're called people of interest, but you know, this is the exact same screen as the custodian screen with a different name. Same location, same process, same search functionality. It's just has the different names that a security person would understand rather than the legal language. So I search for the information. Our evidence is a review set. So this is just the same exact review set, but it's called evidence. It has all the same functionality that I had just demoed to you as far as reviewing things, redacting it, etc. Our people of interest are custodians. So if you want to, you know, put their content on hold, you can. And then it's the same, you know, export process as well. Literally same settings. It just, you might want to only give somebody access to data investigations, like a security person, and you don't want to give them access to all your advanced eDiscovery area. So they did market these and brand and kind of skin them as different solutions. But, you know, as the technical people that have to make this stuff work, it's the same. So I'm getting to the end of the presentation. Are there any questions that came up in the chat at all? Go check.
There is. We've got 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so you know, you put your mailbox on hold inside eDiscovery. Is that the same as taking the legal hold on their mailbox? And if you looked at that user's account in the admin center, would you see legal hold ticked? I actually don't know that there's any, I don't know the answer. I exclusively use this functionality because they're actually trying to get rid of Exchange eDiscovery and legal holds completely, and it is not recommended to continue using them right now. So because I Don't help any customers get started with that. I've never tested it out. What's your favorite value-packed feature in advanced eDiscovery? Oh, hey, Don. I mean, it's got to be like threading and deduplication, right? So in Microsoft Teams, if you post a topic in a team and people reply to it, it'll see that's a thread and present the whole thread to you when you're reviewing the documents. Instead of, if you imagine in core eDiscovery, you're just seeing these individual messages from people and you have no idea what they're talking about. So I think that one is my favorite value-packed feature. Is there any plan for Microsoft to introduce functionality to be able to convert a compliance search into a hold? I would say no. They want you to use the core eDiscovery feature for that. There's a couple reasons. So when you do a compliance search or a content search, which is here, it doesn't allow you to share these searches with anybody else. They're just for you. Whereas a core eDiscovery case allows you to collaborate with people, and they see the hold functionality as being more valuable to that collaborative scenario, I'm pretty sure. We also cannot convert a core eDiscovery case to an advanced eDiscovery case. So let's say, you started using core eDiscovery and putting people on hold. You quickly realized how valuable advanced eDiscovery is, so you bought it. You can't transfer those over, unfortunately. You could move the search results to advanced eDiscovery, but not the holds. So that's why I don't think they'll ever add it, but I'm also not a Microsoft employee and not the product manager, so who knows. So with that, I'm going to just go to the closing slides. I do have a bunch of resources here if you want to learn more about advanced eDiscovery, core eDiscovery, data subject requests, or data investigations. Again, please, I always love geeking out on this stuff. Oftentimes you don't try something out until someone asks a question. So please do keep those questions coming. Please, as you didn't know already, they are doing a raffle. So they're giving away 3 Oculus Quest VR headsets. If you've never used them, they're really cool, and there's a lot of fun games for them as you're stuck in quarantine. We're also doing a charity event or charity donation event. So if you'd like to donate, there's the links. Otherwise, 10% of the funds from the sponsors are going to go to support the community relief. So thank you very much. Please do. I love hearing feedback. That was the first time I ever gave that presentation. There was a lot to cover, so I would love to hear your feedback and whether or not it worked or not. You won't hurt my feelings. I just use it to make it better. So with that, thank you very much.